Hi everyone, thanks once again for tuning in. Today we're going to take a look at a newer way, a different way, for lack of a better term, for a more dynamic transition and downswing. I hope you enjoy this video. Once again, if you enjoyed this video and if you're enjoying the channel, please remember to hit subscribe. Also go to ianmellorgolf.com if you have any interest in signing up for an online or in-person lesson. Okay, taking a look today at how we could be more dynamic in transition and downswing. Often a lot of gains to be achieved from doing that. More distance, more control of the club face, more accuracy. So I want to go about it in quite an intuitive way, but at the same time being a little bit more precise about how we can create separation in that phase of the golf swing. Okay, starting off with a look at just a throwing motion. So imagine a throwing motion where you want to create some speed, some distance to whatever object you're throwing, and where separation would occur in that kind of a motion is actually, instead of where you see historically people reference the pelvis being in a certain position and the rib cage in another position, you can see there's quite a lot of you've got to take everything into account. And as I'm about to throw the ball, it's actually not just the pelvis, my lower torso, so my lead ribs are pulling around, and the separation is occurring more from, let's say around the sternum. It's somewhat still vague, but somewhere around the sternum area is where we're actually creating separation from. And that's where I find a lot of players can get things quite mixed up, because you're trying to get your hip open, your pelvis open, but at the same time you're trying to keep your rib cage pointed down too much this way sometimes. It depends on the player how you'd actually have to feel it. But let's look at how we could create separation more around where the sternum is. So you can even there, when I go into like a delivery position or halfway through downswing, you can see my sternum is somewhat pointed in front of me. However, if you were to draw a line across my shoulders, or the front edge of where my shoulders are, it would be kind of closed. So if you go purely my shoulder line, I'm enclosed, but where my sternum is pointed, it's open. So just bearing that into account can be really helpful, because I find it helps a player to understand that it's getting this aspect of the body, the lower ribs, to move around with the lead hip, can be really advantageous. So simple exercise. Let's just kind of go over this. So imagine you're about to throw a ball, you're stood up tall, you take it back and you're trying to really throw it, so you're creating some nice stretch across your body there. Lower body is open, ribs are pulled around, but you can see my shoulder line yet again is here. And then just add a little flex in your knees and a little bit of bend in your hips, and you're somewhat reflecting that position halfway through the downswing there. And I feel a lot of players, when we kind of go through that, they'll say, oh, it feels like they've created quite a lot more stretch, feels a lot more dynamic. And where that really kind of ties into club face control is, if you look at a lot of good players, you look at the guys on the tour, they create a lot of speed and have a lot of control of the club face. When they're coming into impact and in that position, you can still see, in a lot of cases, the badge or the lead pec here in view of the camera down the line. But by impact, it's facing almost the body, it's much more facing the target. So through the hit, there's a lot more rotation there of the rib cage than you see in players that struggle with controlling the club face. Typically, if the rib cage is slow rotating through the shot, you're going to see the hands and the club work a lot more through the hit. So it becomes harder to really kind of control the direction and the delivery. Okay, so again, just going through that one, standing tall, you're going to throw the ball and then just add a touch of bend in your knees, a little bend in your hips, and then you might be able to get a good sense of, okay, that's how that position halfway through downswing could feel for you. Another one that I've used, that I think particularly players that thrust into the ball, it can be quite helpful for, is just putting your club out in front of you there, and you're almost in your golf setup, and you put the club out in front, you can widen your stance just a little bit, and almost make a backswing as if you're going to skim a stone. And then imagine you're going to skim the stone, but you're going to throw it inside the club there. So you can see how that creates space between you and the club. That would help obviously with with the thrust, and that's why that kind of player really likes this, tends to really relate to this feel. But that's the feel there, and then that again would be moving through downswing there. So again, highlight of today, just being aware of where separation can come from. A couple of exercises there to feel how you can get more open on this lead side and get that moving around here, but being aware of where you'd want a line across your shoulders to be as you're doing that. Okay, I mean, even doing drills just like this, with that awareness of where like the ribs can be really helpful. And then when you go to hit, for me, when I go into approaching shots with this, it feels like I'm being a lot more dominant with my lower body. Feels really powerful. I feel lower. I feel like I've got better connection with the ground. So yeah, when you go out to hit, then I like to do just one rehearsal before, be able to actually like rehearse into impact position. I find a lot of players don't do enough of that, rehearsing how they actually get the club on the ball, when it's obviously helpful if you can understand or feel how you're going to get the club on the ball. But yeah, let's have a go now. Yeah, feels like I can really rip at it with the lower body when I do that. Yeah, really like that there, and it's definitely just a feel that I continually go back to there. And when I get it, just the ball flight, the contact, everything is just much more crisp, more clean. I can hit my start lines more. So just being aware of how you can create separation, just so many gains you can get from it.